Alright, so yesterday got the truck up and running. Today plans are, I ended up getting a gas pedal, ended up buying it through Jags instead of just my initial plan of junkyarding it. Starting to get anxious. Like I said before, it's easier just to buy stuff than it is just go to the junkyard and salvage it. However, it is affecting the old the funds. So I got a gas pedal. Go ahead and install that. Before I do that, I'm gonna have to put my seat in there just to make sure I get the gas pedal at the right height. Odds are also if I get the gas pedal in there, I'm gonna end up probably having to pull the brake pedal off, and I might have to put a bend in it. I don't know. It's just the one time I had the seat in there, I wasn't really too thrilled about where this brake pedal was. So we'll see where the brake pedal lines up when I get the gas pedal and the seat. You know, we'll see what it looks like. All right. All right. Little status update. Trying to do my gas pedal. Got my seat in there. Gas pedal. Not really too impressed with this thing. I had to make that little angle bracket to get it to let's see that angle bracket right there. I had to do that only because the arm of the gas pedal was hitting the floor before. I mean, otherwise it'd have to be sticking way up away from the floor to get any stroke on that thing. So that was a real quick angle, no problem with that. To the point now where I also had to angle it so that it would hopefully it ain't gonna hit. This is terrible lighting. Get some better light. But anyways, I'm trying not to hit this right here. I'm hoping if I angle it just right, set this little cam switch just right, I can have it up a little bit higher, poke through the firewall. Here's another issue that I got to address. Well, I don't know if it's an issue yet, but all right, those two nuts right there are, you can just barely see them right there. Those are the bolts I put in for that angle bracket, which means it's gonna, the cable's gonna pull out somewhere around here, and there's my carburetor. I don't know if I'm gonna end up having to put like a loop in this cable and then going like that. Like I said, I don't know if I'm gonna have to come out with this, a loop, come out maybe underneath this cross arm and just do a little loop. I guess it's gonna be sitting somewhere around here for my accelerate cable. So it's not like I can come out here and that sharp of a turn and then go. Make it nice and gradual. Probably end up having to do a loop. I don't know. With that air cleaner on here, I don't know if I'll be able to do a loop up. I might have to. I don't know. We'll see. I still need to get a bracket. This right here, I mean, that's a throttle cable bracket as well as a TV for my transmission. But it's way too far back. I mean, here's my TV cable. I mean, it's going to be bowed and kinked and everything else to get it back, so I need to find out a way to, if I can, a little bit closer with a bracket off my carburetor. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. One thing at a time. Alright, so I've been trying to get I got my throttle cable pushed through here. It comes through. I think we already talked once about how it's going to be such a tight angle. I might end up having to do a loop into my bracket. Still haven't figured out how I'm going to play that out yet. I ended up getting a El Cheapo throttle bracket. This is, I think it's a Spectre or whatever. So I ended up getting it. Had a very difficult time getting the 700 R4 cable to fit in here. If you can see, I don't know if you can see or not, but everything's like super tight. I was having a very difficult time with these nuts on top interfering with it, and of course it's notched in the worst spot, so this little adjustment part sticks up underneath these nuts. Then I had to turn the bracket the other way around to get these nuts from hitting it as well. Next problem I have is this my throttle bracket now. The throttle on this thing is just it's very similar to that right there. It's going to come out to a piece just like that, and it goes through more or less a hole. Well, this thing, with it being a square hole instead of a round hole, it just wants to slide right through. There's not enough surface area for it to mate up to. So once again, I gotta figure out how to make something work with the wrong parts. I got some angle iron. Alright, I said angle iron. Actually, what I have is this angled aluminum. I ended up buying this for a different household project, but I figure, well, do the same thing. What I'll do is I'll just make a piece like this, and that way I could drill a hole and punch the throttle through the center of it and mount it that way. The only thing is, this is 1 inch angle. This right here is about 1.5 inches. So what I'll end up doing is I'll probably go to Lowe's and see if I can find, hopefully they have like 1.5 inches, maybe even 2 inch. I can always cut some up, trim to fit. But then I can make this bracket, hopefully make this out of aluminum, do another modification. So I'll have to make a trip to Lowe's before I go anywhere else with this. I might be able to mount this in here without the throttle part, just try to get this fitted up with the transmission cable. And that's another thing, I don't know if they, yeah, everything, I won't say it's binding up, but everything is very, I don't know, it's just, it's not flexible. Very difficult to get things jammed up in there right. It'd be ideal if this thing could have been about another 6 inches shorter, 4 to 6 inches shorter. Instead, now I got to push and bind up everything up back behind the firewall. Alright, so the other day I was talking about that bracket, throttle bracket. This is a piece that I'm going to try to make up. I went to Lowe's, got a stick of aluminum angle iron. What is that size? 1.5 inches by 4 foot. This should be plenty, obviously, but I mean, it's bigger than current size, so I need something the same size. This, it's better to cut than rather than try to mat on. And here's a little piece I was talking about, trying to get to go through here. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. See, it just barely fits. It'll hold, but I ain't got a warm fuzzy with it. So this new one, what I'll do is I'll just make the same type bracket, but I'll just drill holes same size as this right here, rather than this big old square thing. So let's see how that works. Alright, so let's see how it looks. Yeah, you get the picture. It's almost in line with it'll work. At least it'll work until it won't. Alright. So, I was editing the video and I happened to notice that I never really gave a finished result of all these brackets that I was building. This is how it's sitting now. It's probably, I don't know, a couple weeks after I shot that video beforehand, but in here you can see my cable, my accelerated cable, and I still haven't completely decided on how I'm going to handle it yet, but just like we were saying before, I did have to make a loop here. I got a little zip tie just to hold it. It stays up underneath the carburetor, the air filter, so it's out of the way. It's not bound up too bad, and it'll work. But here's that bracket I built. I believe that was in this video, but nice and simple. I ended up also building a bracket for the TV cable for the transmission, so I think it turned out a lot better than what I had as well. Took a little while with a Dremel to notch that out, and in fact it's still, you can see some gaps in there. It's nowhere near as form-fitting as it should be, but it's in there tight. It's not going to move. It may not be the prettiest, but it's in there tight. I haven't got it hooked up yet, but I just wanted to give you an update on the end result of that. I can, based on what I got right now, I have plenty of adjustment for both the accelerator and that transmission cable, so the kick down cable. So there it is. I just want to give an update on that, or get you up to date on it before we left this video. Just a little sneak peek of what we got going on next. There's my bed and what's happened also in the last couple of weeks. Yep. I got a little update to the electrical side. During the last vehicle start, you saw that I actually had to pull the coil wire off to get the engine turned off. I had a toggle switch in here. I slammed that toggle switch off, and let me get some light. So that toggle switch on the left there, I turned that off, hoping that was what turned the car off. It does not. Truck continued to run, so that's when you saw that I had started freaking out a little bit and not really thinking too much. I probably could have just killed the gas to it, but that's where I pulled the coil off. Since then I've done a little more looking, trying to figure out exactly what I did wrong as far as wiring it. Figure one thing, here's my original drawing. So here's my original drawing on how I wired this thing. Like I said, it is from Speedway, but you know, this is still a lot that I did on my own. So just the basic wiring diagram, really. I got battery power coming in here. Hold on. So this is what I had. I had battery power coming in. This is that toggle switch that I had. So as soon as I started the toggle switch, it would power up my accessory circuits, which went to my fuse panel and powered up all my accessories from my fuse panel. At the same time, it would also come down and hit this relay. Send 12 volts to this relay, which is that relay right there on the left. The one on the right, that's my fan. And that relay right there energizes my ignition circuit, and that's what it energizes all my fuses, my ignition fuses on the fuse panel. And that also is what comes out here, goes in my pink wire, which feeds my push button start. All right, so now we haven't started it up yet. So let's just say I got this start right there. Toggle switch right here is open. Everything's dead, no power anywhere. I close up toggle switch, energizes my accessory circuits. It also energizes through this relay, energizes my ignition circuits, which gives me power to this push button start. I push that push button to start the vehicle, comes through, goes through. This is your neutral safety switch, which at the time I didn't have, so I just jumpered it. But I do have it wired up now. So anyways, it would go through, from my push button, go through, go to my firewall starter solenoid. Starter solenoid energizes the same solenoid right here, energizes and pulls in this contact, which is 12 volt battery, directly off the battery, going to my starter. So if you look at this right here, purple wire down here, that comes from my push button via the neutral safety switch. Here's my 12 volt battery. Battery coming right, I mean, it's right off the battery. It's not a fused battery. It's right off the battery coming to this post on my starter solenoid. So when I push button start, it energizes, pulls in a contact, sends 12 volt battery to my starter. So that's how the starting circuit works. As long as I hold that push button in, keeps this solenoid energized, pulls in, sends 12 volts from battery to here. So the first problem I had was, and this was under when I was just testing the starter out, you remember, it would get hung up and I'd have to pull the battery post off to stop it, and that was because this solenoid was failing. And even though I took 12 volts off of my little contactor here, off my solenoid, or energized the relay, the main contactors were fusing or sticking closed. They weren't actually spring open, which is the way it's supposed to happen. Send 12 volts here, pulls into contact, closes, you remove 12 volts here, should be spring open on this disconnect and opens up these contacts. Old solenoid was not doing that. It was stick and staying. That's the reason I had to pull the battery post off. Kill 12 volts here, therefore I didn't have voltage to the starter. That was the old. Got a new starter solenoid to fix that problem. I don't know if it was the wrong type solenoid. Anyways, that was the old problem. Going back to vehicle running, or continuing to run, not being able to turn it off. So I always thought that when I was originally wiring this up, if I go ahead and, as soon as I pull that off, it would kill this coil right here, which would kill ignition circuit to my vehicle. My ignition circuit, that pink wire right there, going to my coil. So I figured if I killed my ignition circuit, it'd kill 12 volts going to my coil here, kill voltage there, and it killed the it would kill the engine. It didn't do that. You saw that. I got to digging around. I'm like, why didn't it turn off? So I'm looking around. This right here, this accessory circuit, as soon as I power it up and start up, everything's up and running, everything's energized. I open this thinking I'm going to turn it off. Well, the reason it didn't is because of this accessory circuit right here. Something I did not realize at the time, but alternator feeds into this accessory circuitry on the fuse panel. So the alternator constantly feeds voltage to this accessory circuit, which just backfed through here from the fuse panel. The alternator came into the fuse panel here, fed 12 volts this way through here, keeping this solenoid energized the whole time, which always kept my ignition circuit hot. So that's what was going on. That's my current theory, and that's what I'm sticking with. So how am I supposed to be able to correct this? Put a second toggle switch in here. So start, toggle, energizes everything. Second toggle, close that, energizes my ignition circuit, keeps two separate circuits in there. So energize, everything's hot, up and running. I could turn this thing off in the middle of right after I stop the vehicle, or excuse me, right after I start the vehicle. I could open this toggle switch up and this will continue to stay energized as long as this toggle's closed. Everything, and we've proved that. I mean, the vehicle continued to run. So putting this toggle switch right here in place should kill this relay, which will kill that ignition circuit, which goes to the fuse panel and goes to my coil. I got to thinking about it. Instead of after the fact, I could have instead of doing another toggle switch, which is that second toggle switch right there on the right, that's what that is. All right, so I've got two toggles now. The one on the left was the original, that was for the accessory circuit. The one on the right is now for the ignition circuit. So now I gotta flip both of those to start it. I got to thinking about it afterwards. After I put that in there, I could have gone and bought another one of those push button starts like I had. Correction, I'll go get another push button that is normally closed. So the only time this really is going to be, it's needed to stay closed all the time to keep the vehicle running. The only thing I need to do is open it to, all I need to do is open it to turn the vehicle off. So if I got another push button, a normally closed push button right here, it would keep the circuit running just like it was before I even put a switch in here, so it'd run all the time. And then if it was a push button with a normally closed push button, I could have pushed it to actually stop the vehicle. And like I said, this might be something I go back and do again. This little panel I've got at the bottom, that I've got this wideband and them two toggle switches wired up to, it's just a temporary panel. I keep saying temporary, there ain't no telling how long it'll be there, but originally I just slapped it in there for temporary to get things working. So I might still go back with a push button, we'll see, or I'll stay with two toggles forever. That right there is my neutral switch, that neutral safety switch I was talking about. That's a low car, came with this gear shifter. I tell you what, I've already proved it works once. We'll go ahead and I'll do it again for you. I'll actually put it on video this time. All I'm going to do is go. Alright, so remember, I've already got the coil pulled off, so just to prove, is start. The purpose of it is it'll only start if it's in park and or neutral. So we just proved it was in park. Come down one click, that should be reverse. Nothing. Come down one more to neutral. There, see? So go back up, park. Alright, so that's how the neutral safety switch works. All it is a little button limit switch in there, and based on where your gear shifter is. That little limit switch makes or breaks. Supposedly keeps you from starting in drive, reverse, any gear. You can only start it in park and or neutral.